Hey there, how's it going? My name is Gaffin. If you're sitting here watching this, I assume it's because you're the lucky winner of that Dragapult keyboard featured on SGDQ 2026. Congratulations! If you're not that person, I guess YouTube's algorithm is being drunk again. But hey, you're free to sit here and watch anyway. Now, a little bit of backstory about myself. I'm relatively new to streaming on Twitch. I don't have much time to do it, but when I do, I stream keyboard builds and I stream playing video games, whatever it interests me at the time. Feel free to stop on by and give me a watch when I'm online, which isn't that often, but you know, like I said, life's busy. Today, I want to go over the keyboard that you won and go over its different parts, talk about how to take it apart and customize it if you want, and also how to customize its software because it is reprogrammable and you can make the keys basically do whatever you want, more or less. So, let's begin, shall we? Alright, so let's go over what you should have gotten in the box. Inside the box, you should have all this. You have some extra switches, a silicone wrapped keyboard cable, a box with all the extra keycaps. Not all the keycaps that come in a typical, custom set will fit on just one board. There's lots of different layouts and lots of different ways you can customize it. So inside here, I'll open it up real quick, are all the spare keycaps. Not all of these will fit on this keyboard, like these or this, but you have them just in case, especially if you want to end up putting them on a different keyboard that can take those keycaps. And here's the keyboard box itself. It does have a slip cover. I've just happened to remove it for now, but it opens up. Here's a little card with instructions on how to use it, but we'll go over all this kind of stuff in depth. Keep a hold of this though in case you want to reference something, some sort of shortcut. Off to the side, I am including a nicer keyboard cable, but there is a basic one here in this box. Oops. Basic keyboard cable. Like I said, you got a nicer one over there. Here you got a keycap and switch puller. This is used for removing keycaps. This is used, if my camera will focus, that'd be great. The pincers here are for removing the switches. And then this is just a little adapter. You can put this on the end of the keyboard cable and then put the wireless dongle on here. And then that's just a handy way to use one cable for both features. Wired and wireless charging and all that. And ta-da! Here's the keyboard itself. So, this is the keyboard. Quick overview of what we're dealing with here. This is a 96 or 98% keyboard. I think 98 is the appropriate layout. It's close to a full size, which would be 100%. But you'll notice this part here got shrunken in a little bit, and the arrow keys got jammed in a little bit over here, making this shift key a little smaller. It's a slightly smaller layout while still retaining a full-size numpad. Case here. This is full-blown aluminum, inside and out. Here's where you plug in the cable, obviously. And then this is just kind of a decorative panel. Right here, though, this piece is removable and it's magnetic. If you push down here, it pops up. And there's a wireless dongle, because this is a wireless keyboard after all. Alright, here on top, you'll see the keycaps, including the novelties that depict, Dragapult. These are removable using that keycap puller, and I got another one right here, and I'll demonstrate. All you gotta do is take the wires and kind of put them in there like that. Give it a little twist so that it can hook on to the corners, and then pull. Firm pull, shouldn't take too much effort, but you got to give it a little bit of force. These are just friction fitted on. And there's our switch. To remove the switch, you turn that puller around, now you got the claw thing, and you line it up with the top and bottom center of the Oh, I can't really see there. Yep, top and bottom, center of the switch. And you just kind of press. Shouldn't take too much effort. And then give it a little wiggle. And it should pop out. You're pressing, if this camera will focus, that'd be great. There we go. You'll notice there's these little clips. And what you're doing is you're grabbing onto them on either side, pressing it, and that releases the switch, and you can pull it out. And there's your socket. Now, one more thing to go over. The socket here, actually let me just zoom in with the camera, that'd be a whole lot easier. Alright. The socket here, you can kind of see, get something pointy here. Right here is a little LED, just for lighting. You have these two holes, which are for the little plastic alignment pins that correspond to, whoa, there we go, come on. Focus. There we go. These little plastic pins right here and here. Then you also have these metal contact pins. These metal pins are rather thin, and yet if it will focus, that'd be great. These little metal pins, as you can see, are pretty thin. Focus. I don't have the budget for a good camera. These little pins there are easily bent, so just be careful when you're pulling these out or putting them back in. If you do bend them, you can get some little tweezers or something and just kind of straighten them back out though. Going back to the socket, like I said, you have the two larger holes. Those correspond to those plastic pins, and then these kind of offset holes are for the metal contact pins. Put a switch back in, and I'll demonstrate by grabbing a different switch, like this one. And the function of this is that you can replace the switch if it becomes damaged somehow, or if you just want to use different switches, different sound, different feel. Switches come in a whole bunch of different varieties. These are linear switches, meaning that they just travel down in a smooth linear line. You have other switches that are tactile, meaning there's a little bit of a bump as you press down on it. And then there are clicky switches, which not only have the bump, but make an audible click as you press down. But yeah, to put in a switch, I usually grab it by the stem, which these have these little extra, bits on either side, making it a little harder to grab. I kind of just grab the top and bottom of the switch, come on, like so, and try to line it up as best I can. When you got a switch like this, it's a little easier to grab because they don't have those bits on the sides. I'm not used to having my camera all the way zoomed in. And you just line it up and press it in, and it kind of gets a click. Put the keycap back on, and now you can see different sound. This one's a little bit deeper. Oops, that was the wrong one. I'll just go ahead and put the original switch back. And there we go. Now, there are other keycaps here. You can see they're much longer, like your enter key, your backspace, shift, and like your pipe key. Those are longer as well, not quite as long. These are not too hard to remove. You just kind of have to get them around both sides, and still, you don't have to twist now because it's hooked in there. But now you can pull it out. No problem. These are a little bit more effort because there's a stabilizer in there. And we'll get to what a stabilizer is in just a second. These require a little bit more force to pull out. There we go. So you can see these extra bits here, that's the stabilizer. That is what helps to keep these wider keys in place so they don't rock back and forth as you go to press them. So you can actually press them down in one solid, flat motion. And they actually work. You do have to be careful though when putting everything back in. Make sure everything's kind of lined up, and then you can get it in there. Now, lastly, the one with the biggest stabilizer is your spacebar here. Now, there are different ways to remove it safely. you don't want to just kind of yank on it from one side, you can take the keycaps on either side off, and then if you can get your fingers in there, I can't because apparently I have big fingers. No, I can't. You can sometimes pull it off like this. I don't prefer to do that. What I do is I do what's not recommended, but then modify it so it's okay. You do not want to simply take your puller and pull straight up. Okay, that would be bad. You'll put too much strain and stress on this side and you could break something. So what I do is I basically hold this down and pull this up so it's unpinned on one side, and then I just kind of pull gently. And that last bit is the critical part. I kind of put my finger under there and pull from the side without, you know, yanking like this. I try to pull straight up. You'll get a feel for it, but if you don't want to remove it, that's up to you. As you can see, this stabilizer much wider. This keycap is what you call 6.25U, meaning it is 6 1/4 units, these individual keys being units wide. The backspace is 2U, this is 2.25U, and so forth. Put all this back. Now, let's get a little bit deeper. This keyboard, you can take it apart, like most any keyboard like this. But normally with keyboards, you have to flip it around, and there'll be a bunch of screws you have to take apart. Oftentimes they're very small, so you have to get a smaller screwdriver. Sometimes even a fancier like torque or hex head or something like that. Or you'll remove some keycaps around the edge, and there'll be these little hidden screws that you can then take and get the top case off. This does not have that. This is what has what's called a ball and catch system. So all you got to do is kind of put a thumb on each side here, and then grab the edge either side of the case and just give a firm pull, and it pops off. Here you can see little mechanisms where everything kind of hooks into place. Just kind of a little spring there. All right. And then on top of that, the internals connect with this little pogo pin daughter board. This connects to the USB port in the back. You got magnets on either side, and these little pins, well, the whole thing is bouncy, but the pins themselves are also, you know, can be pressed in. Oh, scary. So many parts and pieces. But this here that you're seeing is the PCB. This is like the central part of the keyboard. This is the main keyboard itself. In fact, right here, probably that chip is the actual logic, you know, the processor, I guess, of the keyboard. It might be a slight exaggeration to call something like that a processor, but yeah. You'll notice there are all these little slits all over. This has got per key flex cuts. It just makes the keyboard softer. But there's the corresponding pins on the PCB. And then here, you got all these little black points sticking out, if the camera will focus. Well, it's black on black, so it's a little hard to see. Maybe if I do like this. There you go, you can kind of see the sticking out like there. These are the gaskets. These slot into these little holes all around and are what suspend this keyboard within the case. And it gives it a nice little bit of a soft, bouncy feeling. Aside from the PCB here, you have this white piece here is the plate, the positioning plate. The keyboard, or sorry, the switches slot into that, and that helps to keep everything held in place. If you do not have a plate and you slot everything into the PCB, they might hold, but they might be too loose and they'll kind of fall apart as you go to type. The switches and the keycaps themselves will just bounce out of their sockets. In between, you do have some layers of a dense foam called Poron. And then on below that, I believe, is also like a probably Poron or PE foam sheet. Very, very thin. You can't really see it on the camera here. And then I believe below that is actually another layer of a clear plastic. I think it's the same plastic you use to make water bottles. PET, I think it is. It's all just sound module, you know, making it sound different. There's even more foam here on the bottom of the case. A big, thick piece with cutouts that correspond to the sockets. These little pieces right here. Here. That's what the pins plug into. You'll notice I'm touching this. It's okay. You're not going to kill it. It's not electrified currently. These are not that sensitive. You do want to be careful and gentle. You don't want to just, you know, sling it all around and rub it or something like that. There are some bits and pieces here that can be a little pointy. Nothing too bad on this particular PCB, but you don't want to be rough with it and end up scraping something off. Now some chip has been removed and now it doesn't work. So just be careful. But yeah, like I said, you got a piece of foam here, rather thick. And then there's another thinner sheet here, kind of like the PE foam sheet on the PCB. I would keep this in. You can take any of these pieces of foam out to your heart's desire. Change up how it feels, change up how it sounds. But I would keep this one just because the gaskets are kind of bouncy and this is just metal. So at the bottom of the PCB hits the metal and shorts the PCB. Like theoretically it could damage it, it probably won't, but you might get some accidental key presses that you weren't trying to do. Also below this is, I haven't taken this off, but I'm pretty sure that's where the batteries are. Shouldn't need to replace those though. Alright, just going to put everything back together. Line everything up with the edges. Good. And then this, all you got to do is just drop it in, line it up with these little holes, line the gaskets up. And you'll feel, as you get close, the magnets pull and you'll hear it click. Well, maybe you don't hear it click because the foam kind of dampens it so much. But yeah, there you go. And now it's holding. To put the top cover back on, all you got to do is line it up and press in firmly. That's it.